welcome friends. What I'm going to do with you today is I'm going to show you all the vegetables I'm planning to grow throughout 2023. So I'll walk you through each bed, what I've planned over there with the varieties and where I got the seeds from. So yeah, that will be the video today. So make sure you have a beverage next to your side and buckle up. That is going to be a fun one. Also, I do not take responsibility for any additional seed odors might happen after this video. Read the disclaimer. All right, so before I want to get into all the varieties I ordered, I want to make sure to give you an overview of what are my favorite seed companies to source seeds from, because that's usually a correlated question with that. One of my favorite companies to get seeds from is a local one here, that is High Mowing Organic Seeds. They're here in Vermont, and most of their seeds they produce themselves in Vermont. It's really great quality of seeds. They have been always rock stars in germination and also plant health every time I grew them in my garden. One thing which I love about them is you don't have to look in the catalog and wonder which of the seeds you look at are organic or not, because all of them are. So it's really easy to shop over there. So I love them. They're not the cheapest one, but I think the quality makes total sense for the price tag. Then my next favorite one, so my second favorite one, is Johnny Seeds, also a Maine local company. For that reason, I love to shop there as well, but also their seed selection is, I think, the biggest and the best one in the market from all the seed companies I've looked at before. I really love them. I do buy, I think, more flower seeds from them than necessarily vegetable seeds, but they have great selections of both of them. So they're really an amazing source. And what is even better with them is the information on the website. Like whatever resource you're looking for, if you don't know how to grow a certain seed, you don't know what the requirements are for that plant to grow, just look it up on Johnny's website. It's amazing. My third favorite source is Pine Tree Garden Seeds, also a small local Maine seed company, and for that reason I love to shop there as well. What is great with them is they have also a large variety, and their seed packages are very affordable, and they have just smaller number of seeds in their packages, so you don't have to like buy for, I don't know, $8 a seed pack with 150 seeds, even though you want to just grow 5 plants, right? They have a lot of nice seed package sizes for home gardeners to try a lot of varieties without breaking the bank. So I can really recommend that. And then you will hear me talking about them a little bit more. This is in, how would I call it? Probably a boutique source for seeds. But I stumbled last year over Row 7 Seeds. They have only, I think, like 15 or maybe 20 different varieties on their website. But what they do is they grow their varieties especially for taste. And one you will hear me talking about in the setup today is the Centercut Squash. Blew my mind last year. Amazing. I was looking for an alternative to beat the evil squash Membora to the punch side. Didn't want to grow zucchini anymore, and I went with this Centercut Squash from them. Let me just quote my family. Oh, that squash actually has a taste. So for that reason, one of my garden goals was for this year trying to grow all of the seeds from them where I can get my hands on. So let's start with a layout of the beds again. So I have 3 really large cedar raised beds at the back of my garden space. They are all 8x4 and 24 inches high, so that is really a substantial like growing mass over there. We'll go through those ones first, and then I have 3 Vigo beds which are smaller and also shorter, which we will go after that. So let's start with the first vegetable bed. So this is this year, so I always try to do a little bit of crop rotation. It's not true crop rotation, I think, because the beds are still too close for a true rotation, but I always try to rotate around that I don't have the same next year in the same place, just for due diligence purposes and just not like trying to get certain garden pests established in a bed where I don't want them. So to have at least a little bit of rotation should help you to prevent those issues. So let's go with the first one. So let's go from top to bottom. So we have there, I'm growing a lot of basil 2023. I thought already I grew a lot of basil last year, but it was not enough. I picked a glass of my homemade basil pesto out of the freezer last week, and now I would have loved to just grow a bed of basil, like an 8x4 bed of basil to make more pesto, but that's not feasible. But you will see them stuck in everywhere. That basil is all a Genovese type large leaf basil. I tried 2 years ago, I think like 10 different basil varieties, and it came back that the Genovese one was always the one I liked the most. This is also a theme for me for 2023. I'm going back to the varieties which we just loved and ate the most. I try here and there some new varieties, but I want to really hone down on the things we loved in the garden, so that number one, I know what I'm doing, but also number two, it gives me a little bit more freedom to go crazy and wild on the flower section, which will be another video. So then let's start on the top. We address the basil. What we have then, there are two varieties of eggplants. I'm going to grow one which I grew 2 years ago, which I loved, but we had too much that I skipped eggplant in 2022. So now it's back in, but just with 2 plants to keep the yields to an amount which our family eats. So I'm growing a small variety which is very cute, which is called Patio Baby, and the fruit sizes is really just fruits like that, but it's super easily grilled, and I really enjoyed that one. And the other variety I'm growing is one from Johnny's, which is called Annina, I think it's the correct pronunciation, and I really love those eggplants with those white pattern on it. So that will be this one over there. And then you see we have like 6 tomatoes in the middle. Those will be all determinate tomatoes, so the ones who grow and grow and grow up and up. What you also notice is they are closer together than the last 3 on that sheet. I had great results last year and the year before with growing indeterminate tomato up a string trellis, so that is why they are a little bit closer. They basically are going to be kept to 1 liter, and they will grow up a string and use the vertical growing space in this regard also well. We also recognized last year with a full bed of only indeterminate tomatoes that yes, we love heirlooms, but we also don't eat that many heirlooms. So for the occasional tomato sandwich, of course, and then I put them into sauces, other salads, whatsoever, gave them to friends and family. But this year I'm reducing them down to just 6 indeterminate heirloom like slicer varieties, and the other 3, which have some more space there, are going to be paste tomatoes, because that's what we use the most throughout the year. Tomato sauce in all different areas. And last year I froze all tomato sauce I made, and we have now beginning of January, and we're down 2/3 already. So if I can make more tomato sauce and can stretch that, I don't think we will be able with that amount to stretch it to next production year, but we'll stretch it way deeper into winter of 2024, ideally with tomato sauce. So that's the plan. But speaking of then the tomato varieties, so that's going to be a fun one. I have there, I got inspired or influenced, however you want to think about it, from Erin, the impatient gardener. Last year she had some dwarf tomato varieties in her garden and was just non-stop talking about how great they tasted, and I think she mentioned them in a few videos, and I think I recall that was the Firebird sweet. So I got this one as well. It's supposed to be really, really tasty. I'm really excited. When you hear dwarf tomato, don't think of those teeny tiny micro tomatoes. Of course not. As I just told you, we're growing them up a string. They are supposed to stick around at like a 5 to 6 feet mark, which would be ideal because that's exactly how, not exactly, it's 7 feet high, our trellis system, but it is something what was a little bit annoying to me last year, because most of my varieties grew out my trellis, and it's a large trellis system already. So I'm hoping to just have a little bit more easier to maintain plants with those dwarf varieties. So we'll see. Then the next one is Hannah's Prize. That just looked pretty to me, and yeah, had really great ratings for taste as well. We'll see about that. And then the next one is Lemon Ice. So the Lemon Ice is a yellow one. I always wanted to grow a yellow one, never had so much luck with them so far, so I'm excited to see that one. And then I finally got my hands on a classic. Last year, for some reason, I couldn't find seeds. I'm not sure what that was, but Cherokee Purple. I heard a lot of good things about it. I know Joe Gardner is a huge fan about it. So I'm really excited to taste that one. And then the one which I grew in 2020 and it stole my heart was the Black Crim. After I tasted that one, that was on my forever grow list immediately, and so far it always has made it. And that is really, one of the tastiest tomatoes I've eaten so far. And last year a new contender made it also to the forever grow list, the pink Berkley Tie Die, which is also just a beautiful tomato, and boy does that make good sandwiches. So I'm also taking the risk in my garden this year to have 6 indeterminate tomatoes from 6 different varieties. It is what it is. If one dies or gets, I don't know, damaged, whatever, it is what it is. I'm taking the risk that one variety is falling out of the picture here. In years before, I always at least planted 2 of each variety, but I really wanted to taste them all, and if it's not making it this year for whatever reason, we'll try again next year. So let's move forward to down the road. Let's take the peppers on the sides. So for the peppers, last year was my year where I went wild with pepper varieties, just to realize I don't like that many different pepper varieties, and we also don't eat that many pepper varieties, I gotta say. So, which means this year we're going back to the basics in which we like. And the two main varieties we love the most is the Shishito Peppers, because we love those grilled in the summer. 2 plants are plenty for us to eat, so that's perfectly fine. And then the other one is the King of the North bell pepper. This is just one of the best performing pepper plants I've seen here for us. I had so many other bell peppers last year. None of them came even close to the yields of this one for us here. So this one will have 2 as well. And then I'll picked up, so that one is new to me, but I always enjoyed those small little picnic peppers, so that is one which we try this year as well. I still hope I get my hands on the variety from Row 7 Seeds. They actually just emailed me this morning, they're supposed to come in restock soon, so we'll hope then one of them might get knocked off the list for this year, but for now we'll see about that. And then something what we enjoyed so much last year was the ground cherries. It's just fun to eat. They taste so amazing. They're easy to harvest because they tell you when they're done, because they drop down. And one thing I made was ground cherry jam out of them. And let me just tell you that it was the best tasting jam I ever had. That was basically sunshine in a little jar. So I can highly recommend to grow yourself some ground cherries. And if you have enough of that, go for it and make a jam out of it. The varieties I tested last year was Aunt Molly's and the pineapple one. I honestly wasn't able to really taste the difference in between. So I just picked up one from Botanical Interest, because I thought I had still seeds but ran out, so I picked some up at the garden center. So so this was bed number 1. Let's look at bed number 2. So this one is already half planted, because this one has, as you can tell, already garlic planted. The garlic was planted out in fall and will probably be harvested sometime around 4th of July. And this is really one of the most easiest crops you can grow. If you're considering growing garlic, put yourself a reminder in your phone for fall to plant it out for 2024, because this year that ship has sailed. But yeah, it's one of the things we use in the kitchen the most often. Almost, yeah, every day, I would argue. Same with onions. It's not sexy, but it's useful because you eat and use them a lot. So yeah, I just love growing them because they're so easy. So half of the bed is planted with garlic, and then next to it we will have some varieties of kale and cabbage and broccoli. So let me see. So for the broccoli varieties, let's start with the kale. Also here, I grew a bunch of different varieties kale already, just to realize that the flat kale, like the ones which is not so super curly, are my favorite varieties. So I typically grow the Dazzling blue because it's also super pretty, and then the other one is the Nero di Toscana, which is also just the dark green flat version. And those ones, some years they do well, and other years they are like pest ridden. I haven't figured out that one yet, but nevertheless, I really enjoy kale and pick of those ones a lot. And they stay with me through the season because they grow like 2 little palm trees of kale. Then when we look at my row of broccoli, what I always try to look for in my spring garden when I pick varieties is that they are heat tolerant. Even though I plant them out before my last frost date, because they can take some cold and can establish even then. But what happened here in our area always is like we have like what feels sometimes like there's 2 weeks of spring and then it goes straight into summer. And which means it can get hot very, very quickly. We had the same situation last year. It was beautiful in May, but then we had a week, or almost a week in June around the 90s, which is really way too warm what we usually have in June. And all my poor brassicas really had a hard time not to bolt. So for that reason, I always look for slightly more heat tolerant varieties, which are like local grown varieties as well. And I've found for me that the broccoli Eastern Magic works very, very well. The Gypsy as well as the Bell Star. So all of them have been very nice and like stress resistant to like temperature balances. So they really did well and tasted also really nice. So I like those 3 varieties. And when we look at cabbage, I want to make some kimchi by myself, so I'm growing some Napa Cabbage, a little red cabbage which is called Integro F1 Cabbage. That one has been like just a really, really nice compact size. We're not a huge cabbage household to eat, like we do love coleslaw and stuff, but not non-stop for weeks. So I focus on the smaller head varieties to just serve our household here the best way. And then a new one here, which is also again a smaller, earlier maturing variety, is the Tiara Cabbage. So I'm excited to try that. So what that bed is a spring bed. All of that will be harvested probably around June, end of June, in line with the garlic. So which means we can flip that bed in the middle of summer. It might be a few weeks a little bit empty before I put the fall plants in, but I'll flip that to a late summer and fall bed. And what I'm going to do is I'll put on the left hand side edamame beans. I'll have a row of beets. Then there's still the kale lingering around from spring. That's the only thing which will be left there. I love some daikon, and then another round of broccoli and cabbage, which we just discussed. They just get flipped, as I mentioned, even even if that bed is still a brassica bed, I still flip them from the position. And what you see over here is I'm going to put a little bit of Swiss chard in between. I won't let them grow out large, but sometimes I love just to interplant while other seedlings start to pick up in size as well, and grow them as like baby greens, for example. For my edamame varieties, I'm using the Chiba Green. I've grown that last year for the first time, and oh gosh, we love edamame just to snack on them and have a really, really nice, healthy, like TV snack on the couch, right? So they are really, really great, and they freeze so well as well. So going big on those ones this year. And then I have two varieties for the daikon. I will probably butcher the name. The one is called Miyashiki white, and the other one is a Japanese Minuese daikon. I love them. Where I come from in Germany, they just love them to eat them cut up thinly with a sprinkle of salt. Taste of home. And then the other way, I love them pickled as well. So that's really two great ways to use those ones up. So this was bed number 2. And let's go and look at bed number 3. I'm creating here chaos. And bed number 3 is a busy one as well, because it's going to be flipped in spring. And I think we talked about that, about the garden plants already. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have radishes on the outside, a row of lettuce on each side, and then the middle of the bed is going to be all peas. Why am I doing it this way is so the snap peas, which I'm going to plant in the middle of the bed, they will start producing probably end of May, early June. And then they will produce for a while, depending on the weather. If the June is not getting too hot, they can produce until like 4th of July as well, but then they usually tucker out after their first 1 or 2 big flushes. And what I'm doing with the rather fast maturing varieties of like radishes and lettuce next to it is they will be gone very soon, probably around like May or so, end of May already. And what I'm doing then is I'll flip them to a cucumber and a squash bed. So they will be basically growing then next to the peas, and while the peas are still maturing while we still harvest them, they start to pick up in size, and I'll just cut out the peas at a later stage to get them out of there when they are done. I've done exactly that last year, and it worked really well, except for like getting the peas out in the middle. I learned some lessons there with the trellis to make that a little bit easier, hopefully this year, but that has worked very, very well for me. So let's look at the varieties I want to grow. And so hands down, my favorite radish variety is the French breakfast, and with the French breakfast I'm just growing these at the moment. I'm done like trying other radishes. None of them had really convinced me as much as the French breakfast, so I really love them. You can also do a lot with them. You can like roast them, you can pickle them, you can ferment them. They taste almost great in any way, so I really enjoy them. And then the lettuce. For the lettuce, I love the 2 varieties of Johnny's from the Selenova line. Those are this beautiful, compact, gorgeous lettuce heads. The seeds are not cheap, but they're worth it. They're also pelleted, so it's really, really easy to grow them. And I could have stuck a lot more lettuce in those beds here, but we're also not eating all of that lettuce that fast here in our household. So I was a little bit more conservative in that regard. So, but the 2 varieties we enjoy the most is just the classic green butter. Zelenova, and the other one is the frizzy one, the green crisp one. Both of them are amazing. I love those so much. So those will be harvested pretty quick. And for the peas, so here last year I think I grew 12 or 15 different pea and snow pea varieties, shelling pea, snap pea, and snow pea varieties. But also just to realize that the ones I grew before were the ones I love the most. So what I'm doing this year is 2/3 of my peas will be my favorite sugar snap peas. They're just like, they're the basic green snap peas, and they're just so good. You can eat them off the vine like garden candy. They taste so sweet and beautiful. I've found our teenagers snapping them there while watching the doggy in the garden and stuff. So really a favorite from the family. And then the other one, here we're coming back to the row 7 seeds where I'm hoping to grow most of them out. They have a mix, which is a snow pea mix, and it's called Sweet Wave, and it has like a green snow pea and a purple snow pea in the mix. So I'm going to grow 1/3 of my pea plants with that mix and see how good they are. So I'm really excited for that. So once the radishes and the lettuce is out, the cucumbers and the squashes come in. So I'm very focused this year to not grow any squash varieties which attract the squashman borer. Last year I was just done. Like, I did such a good job of trying to hunt them, trying to look for them, and still lost a lot of plants. So I'm just done for this year. I'm only growing varieties which are not susceptible. And how do you know which ones are not susceptible? You can look for the botanical name of your squashes, like summer and winter squashes, and the ones the squashman borer prefers is the Cucurbita pepper. That is, for example, under this class falls like zucchini, but also like spaghetti squash, delicata, unfortunately, which is my favorite, but I'll skip out of those two just to have like a year where I don't have to deal with them. So all varieties I have here in my setup are what's called Cucurbita moschata group varieties. So what is the difference with them is the veins of the vines. The vines are not as hollow as the other ones, so they can't go in and have space to eat themselves through the plant to the base of the plant and destroy it. I did see with, for example, my Centercut squash, that they were able to get into the vine, but they didn't make it somewhere. So you have maybe a vine dying, or like just one vine not so well performing, but the plant doesn't take the hit. So that has last year worked very well for me. So I'm focusing fully on those squashman borer resistant varieties. And what are those? It's an mix out of squashes which are like different varieties of butternut squash. That's also the squash we eat the most, so that fits well. And although I think the kogi nut is something else. Anyway, look them up. They're really pretty. I'm really excied to try and eat them. So the first one up is the kogi nut, Robin's kogi nut squash from row 7 seed. Supposed to be super nutty, delicious flavor. Can't wait to taste that one. Then the Lodi squash, also really cute small squashes, because yes, sometimes it's nice to really grow big fat squashes, but that's just not what we eat here in our household, right? So I'm not necessarily looking for like giant varieties. So the small ones, number one, they store usually a little bit better, but also they can be eaten easier for us in the household. Then one other squash here is the 898 squash. It's an experimental squash which they're still working on, so I'm curious to try that one. And then I have still in Honeynut Squash. Those are this cute, darker, yeah, almost like person size butternut type squash. A classic which I've grown now for the years, the Waltham Squash. That's a real classic butternut. And then let's look at the cucumbers. So all of those, oh, and the Centercut Squash. Oh, I have them in the Vigo beds. The Centercut Squash was the one for which I will forever ever drop zucchini because they were so delicious. I just use them as zucchini. They grow, you can let them grow out and use them as a winter squash, or you can pick them rather at the size of a banana or so, like you would pick a zucchini, and eat them fresh. We did grow one out large just to try it. I haven't tried it yet. I wanted to see how the storage looks like, but so far it's still storing well. But the rest, we all ate it in those fresh zucchini sized ones, and they were so good. So good. Yeah, get those ones. You won't regret it. Yep. And then when we look at the cucumbers, I am going to try, so I still haven't figured out the cucumber growing game. I gotta say, they always die too fast on me, but we'll figure that out eventually. So what I'm planning on is like 4 pickling plants, and then the other ones are for slicers. So I have the Bite Alpha, which is supposed to be one which grows easy. It's also one which doesn't need to be pollinated, which I'm still not sure how that works. Gotta do some research here. The Manny Cucumber, that just looked like a really nice variety as well. Then one which worked very well for me last year, the Salad More, supposed to be a bush cucumber, but had also taken over the bed with vines. So we'll see, give that another try to see if the behavior will be any different. And then the Boston Pickling, those are the small, really cute pickling cucumbers, as well as the little leaves, which I really enjoyed as well. So we made some really nice pickles with a few we had there. Or what I also really love to do with my cucumbers was to make cucumber kimchi. Ooh, delicious. Can highly recommend that. So that was all of my big growing beds. So those are the ones which will really carry most of my yields for the upcoming vegetable garden season. So when we now shift to the Vigo beds, I have this one smaller Vigo bed which is just 1.5 feet deep. This will be planted completely with onions, and also here I'm going so much more simple this year with only in variety which I had in last year, which did really well, and this is the New York Early Onion. I tried to grow Walla Wallas, and they did have a substantial size, which was nice, but we just don't eat that large size onions, and they also didn't store that well. So the Early Onion I really enjoyed, and the ones new to me are the Innovator Shallot. So I'm really curious to see those ones. I grew a lot of red onions last year just to realize I barely used red onions. That was kind of a bust. So this year, back to the basics and what we enjoy and what we use. So it's the it's a nice just classic storage onion and some shallots. We use a lot of shallots as well. So I'm excited for this. This bed will then flip over also probably around mid-June, and I will grow a full bed of my favorite bush beans in that one, which is my Provider bush beans. Those are like just the beautiful, most delicious green beans you can think of. They freeze well, they thaw well, you can throw them in stir fries, you can eat them fresh, you can do whatever with them. They're just great. So that will be this little bed. And then when we look and get the next bed, so this is one of the 2 Vigo beds with the arch over. So we're looking at the left side of the arch this time. I've pretty much grown the same variety on the other side last year. So this is a proven setup from a garden plant perspective. What I'm doing there is growing a lot of beans, pole beans and bush beans, and then let some larger varieties go over the trellis, which will be another 2 Centercut Squash and 2 cucumber varieties, which then just have space on the squash tunnel, which will be great. And what I'm trying to do a little bit better this year is planting for succession, because I have like one big scoop of beans and then I've never bothered for succession. So we'll try that this year. And you can tell here also we have some basil stuck in everywhere. Right at the beginning of the bed where the trellis goes up, we have pole beans as well. And my favorite 3 varieties for pole beans are the northeastern pole bean, just a classic green one, which I really enjoy, the Kentucky Wonder, also just very, very plain green one, and one which I probably butcher again, this purple one is just gorgeous, and this tastes also well, and this is called Trionfo Violetto, and I really, really enjoyed that one. So I still have a few seeds left, so we'll use that one up and maybe get another one, but I've also still plenty seeds from the other one, so we'll probably use those ones first. And then again, for my bush beans, I'm planning to just go with my provider bush beans, because I have just such a large seed package which I want to use up, and in the end this has been always my most very favorite variety. So that's what we're doing here. And here is also the Centercut Squash seeds, which I was looking for. Yeah, that will be amazing. I'm still looking forward to get my hands on one of the cucumber varieties from row 7, which is supposed to be restocked soon. That will be then the one which we'll see here in the bed as well. So I'm excited. And now we've made it already to the last bed, which is the opposite side of the arch, or of that squash tunnel for the Vigo beds. This is going to be another tomato and pepper bed. So, and again, this setup and this density of plants I had last year, and it worked very well. I just flipped a little bit the positions slightly to help everyone to get a little bit more light than they got last year, but that should work very, very well. So I'm going to have let's go with the cherry tomatoes. So I got a really cute variety where I'm actually not sure if that's a true cherry, but they look small, so I put them in the cherry department here. And that is one from row 7 seed, the Sweet Prince tomato. They look so cute, so I'm really curious how they will do. The other one, which is in Forever Grow for me as well, is my Sun Gold, which I've tried last year for the first time. And if you have never tried Sun Gold cherry tomatoes, just go for it. It's a perfectly balanced tomato or cherry tomato. Delicious. It has it is sweet but not too sweet. It is acidic but not too acidic. It has a nice bite to it. It is delicious. I got to say, the only thing what I experienced at the end of the season, from the moment it started to rain a little bit more, they split super, super fast. That was not so great. So when you have a rainstorm coming through summer, so make sure you harvest them before. But they have been really, really delicious, delicious. I can't wait to have one in my mouth again. Good. So Sun Gold. And then the last one, that is a new variety I'm trying as well, is called Sweetie. It's just a classic red one, smaller, supposed to be very sweet. I like them sweet. So we'll see about that. So those were the 3 cherry tomatoes. And then for the paste tomatoes, last year I grew Plum Perfect, and the name was a game. I've never seen such perfectly shaped tomatoes, all uniform, gorgeous. The name is the game here. So I can really, really highly recommend them, and really meaty and so delicious. That's where I made all the sauce from. So really, really great. And then, as I wanted to try another paste tomato as well, is I went with the Amish Paste tomato, because I heard a lot of great things as well. So those will be most of our paste tomatoes throughout this year. So from those ones, I will have a good number of plants to just have them in the bed. And then the peppers you'll see here are actually hot peppers here. We are not a super hot or a spicy household, but I do like flavor, and we do like salsas here. So for to make some salsas, we do like to have some jalapenos here, and I love cowboy candy, and I still try to grow enough jalapenos that I can do one batch of cowboy candy, so that would be nice. And then for just like spiced peppers, so that you dehydrate them and grind them down, I love the Aleppo and the red Ember Cayenne pepper to really like put them into chilies for the winter and stuff. They are really, really just nice tasting peppers for hot peppers. Although I'm not in I'm nobody who should give you an indication on how hot is hot, because we barely eat anything hot here. So for me, a little hot is already a lot hot. So yeah, the Aleppo was more hot than I anticipated it, and the Cayenne was really, really hot for me. So, but really nice flavor, so I'm looking forward to it. So I hope you enjoyed that walkthrough. It took a little while, but I hope I gave you some inspiration of what you could grow, or the reasoning for why I picked which varieties here. So now I would love to hear from you. What are you growing this year in your garden? What are you most excited about? What are your top varieties you plant new now? So like, just give me some inspiration in the comments here. I would love to hear from you. And yeah, we're coming up here at the end of the video. What I'm filming next is most likely an seed starting video to show you and walk you through my setup, which I have here with my seed starting station, and what are my supplies which I use most often. So I'm really excited to see you there. Subscribe and watch other videos, of course. But yeah, see you next time.